Hey guys, how's it going? It's Miss Sullivan. Welcome to online learning. Miss Bentley and I have been here at school today working on your lessons, and we got the first one ready for you and thought it might be just a good thing for you to see my face and hopefully help you get some understanding of the first learning target for Latin America history. So I'm going to share a little bit of information out loud with you. Wish you were here to talk with me about it, but I'll try to answer. We will both be on It's Learning, answering any questions that come up about this learning target, and hopefully just having a little bit of out loud explanation will help you as you're reading through your information. This slideshow, we're going to have a little slideshow each day that we're online. There will be a little assignment that we want you to do each day. It'll be something small, just something that you'll learn and then do a little reflection about. So today we're going to start with our first learning target. Fortunately, we're kind of in this new unit, and so we're just going to kick off the unit and start with that first learning target, which was how African slavery impacted Latin America. So we're going to talk about that for just a few minutes. Now, we have to think about why African slaves were brought to Latin America in the first place. When the Portuguese and Spanish explorers came over from Europe and landed in Latin America, they had a plan. They wanted to find gold and silver, maybe even build empires of sugarcane plantations, search for valuable diamonds, minerals, all kinds of things, and they wanted that specifically to go back to their homelands and make their countries wealthy. That was their goal. There were some other side goals. You've heard the 3 G's: God, glory, and gold. And so there were other missions and things like that were going on. But the main one for Portugal and Spain was money. And so when they arrived in Latin America, this was their plan. When they got there, they did see that there were already people there, just like when the explorers came to North America, they saw our native people that were here in the United States, or what would be the United States. Same thing in Latin America. There were already people there, already civilizations happening. As we know, the Europeans weren't so kind to the indigenous people, and they tried very quickly to enslave them to start their work of gathering these resources and these gold and start planting sugarcane and that sort of thing. The problem was these indigenous people started dying of disease. The Spanish and Portuguese people had bacterias and viruses in their body that they were immune to. But when they passed those along to the indigenous people, their bodies had never seen those diseases, and it overwhelmed their immune systems, and they died. And so because of that, the European people had no workforce, and all of these tasks that they had planned for needed a big workforce. So they had to look somewhere else for more men for their jobs. And so they went to Africa, and that's where they found a great work source of people. They were immune to the diseases, mostly immune to the diseases that the Europeans had, which was great. So they, of course, you know the stories of slavery and how brutal it was. They basically went into Africa, caught the people, loaded them onto ships, took them across the ocean away from their families, and enslaved them into hard labor jobs. It's a part of our history that is. It's a terrible part of our history, but something that we know about, and we learn about those sorts of things. And it is always hard to talk about slavery and understand the mentality of that. And we've talked about that before. But that worked out really well for the Spanish and the Portuguese. They got a huge workforce to mine and grow crops, and they didn't die. So that was really a benefit for them. So you can see on this map, this is one similar that we've studied, that the large majority of slaves that were brought over on the ships came from this, east coast, the western coast of Africa, and they were brought to Latin America. Brazil itself had over 5 million slaves brought to their coastline. In comparison, up here in North America, only 500,000 were actually delivered into this part of the world. But 5 million were delivered to this part of the world. And so that was a big thing. I really didn't know that until I started teaching 6th grade, that so many more were actually delivered to the Caribbean and South America versus North America. A few, of course, went into Europe and Asia, but most of the slaves that were brought across the Atlantic wound up here in Brazil working in diamond mines, gold, silver, and sugar plantations. Okay. So what was the influence? What ended up being the influence? Of course, it made Portugal and Spain super wealthy, very rich, and because they didn't have to pay their employees to do their job. So that was a huge impact that they made that. It also changed the whole culture of Latin America. In the future, once slavery was over, slaves integrated into the society in Latin America. There wasn't as much of a division of Africans and the native people in South America. We talked a little bit about this last week. And so there was much more intermarriage between Africans, the indigenous people, the Portuguese and Spanish colonists. There was much more intermarriage. And so there was a blend of cultures, a blend of the races, more so in Latin America than there ever was in North America. So that really changed the culture and the dynamics of a whole continent of people over time. And I don't think that one is written here, so that's a really big one, that it really did change the culture, and the blending of cultures was very prevalent in Latin America. Okay. And here's just a picture of a sugar cane field and factory working in the sugar plantations. So there is a small It's Learning assignment. We are asking you to answer a question about this particular topic of African slavery in the development of the Latin America area. And if you'll go to that, just type a few sentences and send that in so that we'll know that you listened to this presentation and that you're understanding most of the material. If you have any questions, you're welcome to, of course, email Ms. Bentley or I in It's Learning, and we will get back with you. I hope you all are staying safe, wash those hands, and we hope to see you back at school really soon. Take care.